Welcome to TFP, the Theatrefolk podcast, the place to be for drama teachers, drama students, and theater educators everywhere. I'm Lindsay Price, resident playwright for Theatrefolk. Hello, I hope you're well. Thanks for listening. Welcome to episode 137. You can find any links for this episode in the show notes at theatrefolk.com/episode 137. So today I am talking to teachers, and every teacher in this particular podcast has experienced a first year in the classroom, the first time their school has had a drama program, the first time back in the classroom after a long break. This is part one of two in our Successes and Challenges series, and I really had a lovely time talking to these teachers. I love hearing what challenges you guys face, how you deal with them, and more often than not, how those challenges turn into successes. I think that's really important to share. I think it's really important to hear if you are, if you're on your own island in the middle of nowhere and it seems like you're at a loss, that there are other people who are in the same boat as you who have taken on challenges and turn them around. So I recorded these interviews at the end of the year, but I purposely wanted to release them now at the beginning of the school year because, it's easy to forget where we've been after the summer break. Everyone's been in the sun and, everybody's just getting back into the swing of things. So listen and enjoy. Let's do it. And now I'd like to say hello to Gina DePinto.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
So how long have you been a teacher?
I have been a music teacher, piano teacher since high school. Instead of babysitting, that's what I did. And I've been formally a teacher for about 10 years. I was a middle school choral director for a while and then budget cuts and all that. And I found myself back in my hometown last year as a 6th grade general music teacher / preschool early intervention special needs music teacher.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so kind of a different position, but it's really fun.
So is that sort of so you've gone into this first year into this new position?
That was last year. This year, instead of 6th grade, I have 5th grade.
Yes.
I still have my pre-K, and then we have 2 middle schools in our district, and the drama director at one of them moved away to pursue other opportunities. And so being that we wanted to have another music teacher in the drama department so that both schools be parallel, they asked me to take over. So
what was that like to not have any background and just sort of get called up or get called down to the office and go, okay, this is going to be yours? What was your first reaction?
I actually was thrilled because in college my background was, I'm a musician, but my background was literature and theater. And so musical theater and theater just kind of always been the backbone of my music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not so much what I did for practice, but, I do musicals all growing up, and I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with a particularly interesting musical called Call of the Wild, the musical. A little weird little experimental piece. So I was kind of glad to get back to doing some theater stuff. And it's the town where I grew up, so I feel like I'm helping rebuild the legacy and helping enhance the legacy that we've had, so.
That's a nice point of view, I think. Instead of being terrified, it's you're being helpful. I like that.
I have a great support system. Like I said, there's the 2 middle schools. And so my colleagues at the other middle school, which happens to be where my day job is, it's very complicated. We've worked together to really create a parallel program so that our musicals are kind of run the same way.
Yeah.
The way we audition is similar. A lot of that, so we have a similar structure. So when they get to the high school, and that teacher's also been very helpful as a mentor, it's more of a feeder program so that they reach the high school having had comparable experiences. Our high school is actually an award-winning program. So
I think that's a really good thing to kind of get out there, is that the more it's all about structure, isn't it? So
right.
if this group is doing it this way, let's have this group do it this way, and then when they get to high school, it's not a a whirlwind for them.
No, the big challenge for me, though, has been I actually found this play through poking around when I knew I was taking over this job, and I believe I Googled directing middle school musicals, which happened upon episode 108 of your podcast. You had Brian Barauka on, done. You were talking about how he wrote Rochambeau, and we're actually presenting that next week at the Massachusetts Middle School Competition Festival. That's the big challenge for me. I've never done a competition festival. I've never, you have the time limit of, okay, guys, we want the show to be under an hour or under 2 hours, but never been in this whole, 5 minutes, 35 minutes, break it down, adjudication. So that's been really interesting. And that's where the kids have been helpful because they really drive that themselves and they love Rochambeau. They absolutely think that this play is just the coolest thing ever.
Oh, that's so wonderful. Oh,
yeah.
Brian would be so happy to hear that. You know what? I really do think competition is an animal, isn't it? It's just its own thing.
Our high school just got all the way to the top level. And so a few of those students who were in middle school, remember this are two schools.
Yeah.
So some of the kids who were in that, who were at this middle school when they were younger, have actually come and mentored and helped them, given them pep talks. And some of these kids are 8th graders, so they've done it in previous years. And it's just amazing to me how devoted these kids are. They give up, all this time to do it. I mean, I understand it being a theater person myself, but to see it in a middle school level of, the other day they said, can we rehearse later? It's like, yes, sure. What time? Well, we surveyed all the parents and they said 7:00 from right after school till 7 p.m. Sure. Why not? I'll be there. It's amazing. Do
you ever see any of the downside of competition?
I haven't yet. Get back to me in a couple of weeks once we've done it and I'll let you know. But it is hard that it's a cut cast. My musical was 77 kids.
Yeah.
We did Dear Edwina Jr. It was great. There was a way to find a part for everybody. That was heartbreaking to go the week after the musical to say, okay, I only need 16 of you now.
Yeah, because they don't quite get, because I mean, in your mind, it's like, look, I did the 77.
Right.
You got it, but they want to be in everything.
Of course, of course.
So what would you say when you're facing the challenge of competition? What would you say to other people there's lots of folks out there who are in the same boat in terms of they don't have the background and they've sort of been thrown into that aspect of the drama program. What advice would you give someone dealing with competition?
I'd say just go with it. Just go with it. Find a play that you find some investment in. Like our spin on Rochambeau is we're playing it deadly serious.
Ah, cool.
Because that's how you find the comedy, right? It's like old school Saturday Night Live. Andy Kaufman was only funny because we had no idea why it was funny. Dan Aykroyd's Bass-O-Matic was funny because he was deadly serious about selling that blender. So that's the way they're playing it. So find a play that speaks to you. Like that to me struck me as something like that. And if you believe in it and your kids believe in it, then just go with it. If they've got a wacky idea, as long as it's within the framework, just go with it. The worst that can happen is that you don't win. And so what?
Yeah, that's I like that very much. I love it. I love it. Well, it's like we get really wrapped up, don't we? Like it's like, oh, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Yeah. And it's like, well, maybe it does and maybe it doesn't.
That's what's been very freeing about the competition play versus the musical, too. The musical is the big production, and you want to get every kid and every elementary school family and every high schooler to come and watch it and fill your theater. And so there's a lot more directing and a lot more maybe professionalism to it. But because the competition is supposed to be student-driven, I've found a lot more opportunity to just say, well, what do you think? They'll come to me, would my character? I say, I don't know. Would your character? Because they're supposed to know that. They're supposed to be able to tell the adjudicators that. And it's really very hands-off. I mean, I have to rein them in once in a while when they decide that, we should build an entire school on the stage. Well, no, guys, we have 5 minutes. We're not going to do that. Let's use some blackboards and a chair and it'll make it look like, But they have these ideas that they come up with themselves. And instead of going, well, it's a good chance to say, well, I don't know. You tell me.
I can't think of a better learning tool.
Yeah, it's like improv. Yes, and
yeah, totally. Okay, so this sounds very successful. What has been your in this sort of as you've been dove into the deep end of all this? What has been a great success for you this year?
Honestly, it was seeing that musical happen that I hadn't done a musical in a long time. It hadn't been since college that I had done any directing. And for it to go off so well and be so well received, picking a musical nobody had really heard of instead of a Disney show. I wanted to try to bring more real theater into it and not so much just filling the seats. And the fact that we had a very successful run. The local paper covered it. We sold tons and tons of tickets. The families were happy. I was worried that it was going to come off to be like no one was going to show up. who's ever heard of Dear Edwina anyway? What is this thing you're doing? And it went beautifully. And so that to me just was, okay, I've got one. I did one. So now to go from there, I know I can do it. I know my kids can do it. I know I have a good group of parents to support me. So it was just getting that one out of the way. I've got my success under my belt. So
that means next year's just going to be awesome, right?
It depends. I guess it depends if I can find the right show. But yeah, I'm hoping. I was toying with Xanadu Jr., but most of my kids don't roller skate. And then, Sweeney Todd doesn't really have a junior. We've had this little game going on online with my friends, my other theater friends, and I have, the most inappropriate junior plays we can think of. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweeney
Hair
Todd.
Junior, not so much. Rent Junior, no. But it'll be finding the right show for the group of kids. And what's nice is I'll know them all next year. Yeah. I didn't know these kids this year because I teach at the other middle school. So it was completely blind casting, which was kind of nice. But now I know, okay, I've got no low boy voices. I know that I have X number of superstar girls. I know that I have a sixth grader who's a competitive roller skater, which is why I toyed with Xanadu. I know that I have 3 girls who do Irish step dancing. I know that so I have more of an idea of what I have, so I can pick a musical that better suits my kids.
You can play to their strengths.
Exactly. It's an advantage and a disadvantage. It's not as blind of an audition process, but that may help in a way for me to pick a show that suits the kids better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. That was lovely. I love hearing what people are doing, and I love sharing what people are doing, because there's going to be somebody out there who is just like, oh, that's me, and feel better and
well, they're good. Always welcome to email me and get in touch.
Oh, you're a doll. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Brittany.
Hello.
Hi, I'm talking with Brittany Daly, and you are a first-year teacher.
I am, yes. First year, middle school. So, yes.
And that's basically that's your success and your challenge in a nutshell, I'm guessing.
Yeah, first year has been very interesting. I worked previously as like the after school teacher at a separate school, so I definitely am used to working with kids, but this was my first year working full time, and actually lesson planning and stuff.
Yes. Oh, so let's get into that. So what was your biggest challenge this year?
I think 2 of the biggest challenges for me, and I'm sure you'll hear this a lot with first-year teachers, was dealing with classroom management strategies, and then sort of getting used to the school and having that feeling of like the kids kind of knew a little more than me coming in. They knew how the school, they knew. I was hired like exactly a week before school started too, which was very interesting. So there was this sense of being kind of thrown into it, and the kids knew, they knew the routine of this school. They knew what was expected last year with, their old drama teacher, and trying not to get compared, but you inevitably get those, well, last year we did this type statements. So managing those 2 things was definitely interesting. Probably my biggest challenge.
I'm sure the first couple of months were just like, okay, here we go. Seat of the pants stuff.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. Like thinking back, I tried to maintain some sort of journal or reflection of what was going on, but there were some points where like I think back and I just be like, oh my goodness, how did I get through like that one day where I woke up and was like, this lesson plan doesn't work. What am I going to do? And struggling to try to make things work and getting the classroom set up and all of that. So it was definitely a whirlwind.
So how did you address, particularly because I know a lot of you were right, a lot of our teachers who were talked to, classroom management, particularly in the drama classroom, is such a big thing. Mm-hmm. So how did you address it?
I think the first thing for me, I had to kind of come to terms with the fact that even on the days that things didn't work out, that it wasn't a reflection of me as a bad teacher. Because there were definitely those days, the first few weeks, where if I came home and I had a class that was particularly difficult, I would almost be in tears thinking like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this and I should have stuck to just, working after school versus teaching full time, and sort of coming to terms with the fact that there are just going to be days where things happen that, keeping your cool, they're out of your control, and not letting it get to you. That's the first step, I think, because then after that, you can actually take more control of the situation. But little things like the first trimester was definitely establishing routine. I didn't have any. So once I was able to lock down, what do I want my kids to do when they come in? Where are their materials going to be? Once the kids had their sense of the routine, that helped to eliminate a lot of behavior issues. And then getting to know the kids is a big one too. I always had this idea that with classroom management, being fair meant having all the same policies for every single kid, but you start to learn with certain students that there's different ways of handling a situation, and picking up on those cues and kind of having like a toolbox of, okay, like for example, I have one student that he loves to use a blanket in my classroom. I have a box of blankets, and when he has that blanket, he is well behaved and focused. And so we have this sort of agreement that if he's behaving, he gets to use the blanket, but the minute, something changes, he's kind of losing that privilege. So knowing the kids and having different techniques for each of them was also a big step forward.
And now that it's sort of under your belt, what do you look back on and consider your greatest success this year?
I would have to say just that first trimester in general, especially getting my first show done, because I was also the drama club director at the same time. So I think managing, getting used to the school, the town, all of that, and then also being able to successfully put on a full-scale production. We literally started rehearsals 3 weeks after I started there. I chose my show and we went. So getting all of that done, but the show definitely sticks out in my mind as a big success.
Well, it's lovely too, because it's a process and a product, right? You
exactly.
You work with the kids, but then there's also something that you can look back on and go, okay, it went up in front of an audience.
Right. We got there. We finished it exactly. I know. I'm sure at the end of this year, once the year finishes and I'm able to look back, but it kind of feels like, as far as the lesson planning and the teaching full time, it still doesn't feel complete yet, because I still am working towards that goal of adjusting my lessons and kind of throwing out what didn't work this year and preparing them for next year. But I agree with you. The play has that concrete, we finished it, we got there, we had an audience, it's done. So
what's one thing that you are thinking about to apply for your next year 2?
I noticed this year that I kind of had to run with, since I got hired so late, I kind of had to run with lesson plans that I sort of had in the bag from grad school and stuff, and also topics that I knew the most about so I could readily pull from them. And I found that in my lesson planning, sometimes I would extend an activity longer than I think it would need to, or vice versa. Sometimes I would plan for the activity to be quick, and then I would do it with the kids and realize, that this is going to take a lot longer. So I think next year I'm looking forward to just applying my time management skills, and also making more time to sort of research different theater topics that I can add into the year. I'm really excited to look at puppetry, because we didn't have a chance to do it this year, but I realized we had time, so I think the kids will like that. And I really want to do something with sort of solo performance, or Anna DeVere Smith, have them research someone and write a monologue and maybe perform it as them, something along those lines. So I'm looking forward to applying new stuff.
Well, it sounds like your first year is not going to be your last year. It sounds like this is...
Oh, not good. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
Okay, I am talking to Corby Kisling. Hello, Corby.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am quite good. How are you?
Excellent. I am quite good as well. Okay, so let's get into, I can't wait to hear you talk about your challenge for this year. What was your challenge?
My biggest challenge was convincing my principal to start a theater program.
I think that is the best challenge ever.
I succeeded.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about the difficult parts first. How was he difficult? He or she difficult to? Did they not want to do it? Why did you go in?
Putting the bug in the ear all last school year, because last year's school year I taught language arts, which is the curse of all drama teachers. And so I just kind of kept putting the bug in his ear, and I would give him random articles to read about how it was good to have all sorts of arts and how theater arts really supported language arts, yada, yada. And on the last day of school, I found out I was going to be teaching drama.
Well, that was okay. So then you got it, and then you had to sort of step up, right?
Oh, I had to start from scratch, complete scratch. I had to write the curriculum for the county.
Oh, wow.
I wrote the curriculum for the class. Everything that I did literally came from my brain.
How long did that take?
We had no book. We have no scripts.
Oh, you are ground zero.
Yes, we are dead ground zero, but luckily we have It's theater. We know how to produce things out of nowhere. So I started off with improv because that's free and you don't need anything for that.
Right. And then
we've progressed to simple open scenes because, again, those are free too. And we're starting to do a little bit of Greek, a little bit of Shakespeare, staying away from copyright, but I only have them for a semester. Right. So by the time we get through that and they're required to take a state test, they're out of here. But I did get them all dressed in authentic Greek costuming, which was awesome.
that must have been quite the, that's a great picture for administrations to see, you know? It's like,
yeah.
Look.
And I had one 7th grade boy bring in a wheelchair because his god did not walk. So he called it his wheel chariot.
Oh my gosh. That is awesome.
And one girl made her entire Medusa costume out of trash bags, tinfoil, and 2-liter bottles.
See, that's awesome. That is an amazing thing. I can picture that, and I just think that's great. So how's the response been?
The student response is crazy. I started a drama club after school as well, and we have a magnet school for drama, but the kids who were here still wanted it. I haven't had less than 30 kids. And we do our meetings on every other Friday, which is insane because I beat all the other clubs. Doo-dah.
And does your administration, do they acknowledge the impact that this is having? Maybe
I'm working on it.
Well, nothing changes overnight. So
exactly,
all you can do is one step at a time.
Yep. And last semester was such a learning semester because I've taught high school theater. I've taught college. I've done acting classes. I have never dealt in the middle school arena before, and it is not for the faint-hearted.
No. Well, and I think too, I've been talking about this with others, is that you can make I think it's really easy to make mistakes with middle schoolers. Like high schoolers are very defined. I think elementary students are very defined. The middle school is that amoeba in the middle that you can't treat them too young. You cannot treat them too old, and they're their own beings.
It's a cornucopia of craziness. And I have some classes that are 6 all the way through 8. So I'm just like, how do I talk about the 3 different Greek plays and explain the satyr play? Let's just say it's really dirty and we're leaving it there.
See, some challenges are not just about you, but also how things are going to be handled,
Yep. We also, since we're in Florida, we're doing a whole bunch of tests, race for the top stuff. Between April 13th and May 19th, I have a full class 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, 2 days, let's put it this way. Let's spin this. So 2 days is better than no days.
And I'm a giant dork, so I'm putting all of my notes online.
Awesome. I think that's lovely. And I think that so this is your challenge and your success, right? You have succeeded in moving this project forward, moving drama forward, and that means that you can't be stopped, right?
I am a bull. Not in the China shop, just a
bull in the middle of nowhere.
I'm a bull in the middle of nowhere. You're a honey badger. I don't care. I'm going to get what I want done.
That's fantastic. I love that. Thank you so much, Corby.
No problem.
All right. I am talking to Barbara Stoichev. Hello, Barbara.
Hello. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Cool. Okay. How long have you been a teacher?
I have been a teacher this is my first full-time teaching job. I have taught part-time for a couple of different years. So I would say 1 year since it's full-time work. I won't count the part-time work.
Oh my God. Well, that's kind of exciting. I hope it's exciting.
Yeah,
to
it
dive
is.
into it. Now, did you sort of decide to make the plunge to go full-time, or it just it was offered to you, so you took it?
It was offered to me and I took it. It was a last-minute thing, and I just decided, sure, why not?
Okay, so a year later, are you happy that you made that decision?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with teaching, there's always challenges every single day, but it's not a decision that I regret in any way. So no, I absolutely, coming in full time, there's more challenges, every day since you're in the classroom every day versus part time. Um, when I wasn't in the classroom every day, there's a different set of challenges, but, no, I wouldn't change it. I really do enjoy it. It's actually easier being a full-time teacher than a part-time teacher.
The rhythm is probably a lot easier, huh?
Yeah, and being able to be there every day and understand and know everything that's going on, where if you're a part-time teacher and you're only teaching 2 or 3 days a week, you miss out on so much from the day-to-day that you're always playing catch-up. So it's a little easier, I think.
Okay, so let's get into it. So this was your first year full-time. What was the biggest challenge that you had to face this year?
The biggest challenge it was, well, still is I have one drama class, and I am a certified English language arts teacher. And theater, I don't have a strong background in theater, so that has probably been my biggest challenge. The majority of my classes are English language arts classes, and then I have one drama class. And so that has been my biggest challenge is, one, coming into a new school, 2, coming in as a full-time teacher, and 3, being given a drama class with no experience in teaching drama. So that's been the biggest challenge.
And how did you deal with it? That's a big thing.
It is. Your website has been very helpful, to be honest. Reading the blogs, yes. No, I mean, seriously. I have other friends that are teachers that teach drama and such like that. And, talking with them, but being able to have a resource handy like your website to go in and read for lesson ideas has been huge. Because I can only think of so many things off the top of my head. So really being able to go in and explore other ideas, that type of thing. The other thing that's been challenging about it is I have many different levels of students within one class, and we only have one drama class. So we don't have like a drama 1, a drama 2, a drama 3 type class. They're all, if the students want to be in the drama class, whether they were in it from last year to this year, I have different levels of students. So beginner to, more advanced, I guess I would say. I would say. But we don't have different levels of the drama class. So that's been a really big challenge. I only have 13 in the drama class, so it's a small class size. But I have this year, there's more freshmen, so they're more of the beginners. And I have quite a few seniors. So the skill set is either really new or really advanced. So that's been interesting.
And then, so you've had these challenges. So what would you consider the most success that you've had? What was something successful that you really felt good about?
Well, we are going to be putting on our play in about 2 weeks. So the ultimate success will be how well our play goes on. We have 2 showings of our play, so that's coming up in 2 weeks. So that will be my greatest. Hopefully, it will be the greatest success for the kids, but I don't know yet. But so far, I would say going along, not having any experience in theater, I have a few classes I had to take in theater, but not actually having a background myself. Being able to teach the kids as far as how to, like, line memorization, character analysis, that type of thing on my own. They've really seemed to do well with that. And so that's been one of my successes.
It's amazing when you're sort of told to jump into the deep end of the pool and you're like, okay, let's do it. And then it actually happens. It must be,
yes.
It must be very rewarding. Like, I think that's very daunting to get thrown into something that you don't know a lot about.
Absolutely. And that was my biggest frustration at the beginning of the school year was you can only do improv activities for so long before nobody wants to improv anymore. So coming up with different activities to do in class at the first half of the year was, it started to wear out and the kids were just ready to move on to the play. And we had some trouble at the beginning trying to pick a play that would work. But once that was all kind of worked out and we have our scripts and we started working on our play, things really started to take off a little bit better. And the course is a full year course. And so I think for next year, we're going to keep it just a semester course. So it'll be like in the spring, and the course will focus solely on putting on the play for the school instead of just developing skills and then putting on the play. Because that first half of the year when we were developing skills, like I said, with different levels of students within one class, that just became really tedious. And I didn't want to break the class down into, okay, beginners and advanced, because in a small class of 13, I mean, you really can't do that and be successful.
Well,
at least I can't figure out a way.
The beginners just feel like they're less, which is not the point.
Right, exactly. And I don't, and with 13, it's better to work as a cohesive group than just split everybody off. That's what they were used to in the past with the other teacher. They were being, split off into different levels. But I think this year, they finally, after a while, they finally understood that, it is more fun when everybody can be kind of together working on one skill set or something like that.
Well, and putting on a play that's all the skill sets sort of combined into one. It's all the levels combined into one, and then they got to put on a play.
That's right. And we'll see how it goes.
Oh, well, break a leg.
Thank you.
Yeah, break a leg. And well, it sounds like it's going to be wonderful, right? It's always going to be fine.
Yes. That's right. Yes. That's right. Yes, it will be. It will be. They've been working really hard, and I am really looking forward to, in 2 weeks, seeing them pull it all together and work together as a cohesive group and put on a wonderful show for our school and their parents and our community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Lee.
Hello, Lindsay.
All right. I'm talking to Lee Marshall. And Lee, I love your story because you are a first-time teacher, sort of. But yes. You took a long break there.
I did. I took about 16 years off. Just a little.
just a little break.
Just a little compose myself kind of break and raise my own little thespian group. So, yes.
I think that's a very good reason to have a break.
Yes.
So we're talking successes and challenges. So let's talk about first the challenges of going back to be a drama teacher after all that time.
The challenges were I had taught elementary school drama classes. And then when I came back as a middle school theater teacher. So but I had been subbing in elementary, middle, and high school. And I just found that I loved middle school now. And I loved that they were still willing to give you hugs, but yet they got all my jokes. So it was the perfect storm, the perfect, wonderful storm. So I wanted to come back at this level, and my kids had gone to a performing arts magnet middle school, and I had done some directing for them of their musical, and had also done some teaching in the classes, some Shakespeare unit teaching. And so when they had an opening, I stuck myself in the door and came back after a little hiatus, just a little short hiatus. So I guess the biggest challenge was starting in middle school and not having a curriculum. But that's also one of the greatest parts of it is not having a curriculum. So just kind of making up everything from scratch was a really fun challenge. Some days it's more challenging than others, but I love that. I love that part of it. So
I think it's true. I think sometimes it really is true. Not having rules or not having a base to follow or to fall back on can be the most terrifying and yet the most rewarding,
Right. Right. It was both. It was terrifying and it was terrific because there was a ton of freedom for me to choose things that sometimes
choose things I'm comfortable with, and sometimes choose things that are incredibly challenging for me and the students. So it's both. It's both things, which is a lot like life.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah. So what was one thing that you chose totally out of your comfort zone, which was challenging for you and your students?
Oh, I will say that right now what I'm teaching, which is absurdism, totally out of my comfort zone. The only reason the only thing I was kind of comfortable with was my son was in a production of Waiting for Godot. And so I became very familiar with that when he was the boy in Waiting for Godot a couple of years ago. So, but that was out of my comfort zone and I've loved it. It has been one of my most fun units to teach. And the kids, I mean, nobody gets absurdism like middle school kids. Nobody.
Well, it is their life, isn't it? It's it's completely absurd.
It's really easy for them to write absurdist plays. I really feel like I could take some of these on the road. Some of the absurdist plays that they have written are just brilliant in an absurd manner. So,
all right. And then, so what do you think has been your most your best success this year? I
think my best success was I'm one of those theater teachers that I'm right down kind of the middle of the line between this chaos and organization. I'm right in the middle. I love both, but I have to have both. And so I kind of at the beginning of the year established just a really good skeleton for each class. And because I knew I needed that structure to kind of hang all my chaos on. So I just established a structure that was familiar to me. I had directed the musical here, and so I had a structure that was exactly like you would do when you came in to rehearse a play with me. So when we come in, we do what we do in the beginning, which is a focus where I make them be silent for at least 30 seconds. I try for longer, but 30 seconds is sometimes all I get, where they do something with a quote of the day. And so I have a quote of the week. So I have a quote of the week that sometimes is theater related, sometimes is life related. This week it's a quote by Seth Godin about failure and not being afraid of failure. And so they do a little focus activity with that. And then they write how they're feeling and what their intention is for today. I try and be very intentional and try to make them intentional. So then we go around and share those. They share their feelings, 3 words or less, and they share their intention, which sometimes they actually read my goal written on the board and they say that. Those are my tryhards. And then sometimes their intention is not to fall asleep or not to punch somebody in the face or something like that, which, I mean, hey, sometimes
I'll go with that.
My intention sometimes is also not to fall asleep or punch anyone in the face. So I totally understand your intentions. So we do that and share our intention. And as the years gone on, they actually really kind of get that. And like today, some of them, their intention was to be a good audience member as they were listening to monologues. And I see them trying to live out their intention a little bit more now that we're near the end of the year. So after that, we do a warm-up, and my stage manager of the week chooses the warm-up sometimes. Sometimes I give them the warm-up depending on if it's something that we need to do to go with the lesson. So we do a warm-up just like you do in a rehearsal. And then after that, we start into our play. And the first thing we do is exposition, which the kids will tell you is where I talk. The exposition, I give the exposition for what we're doing that day, what our kind of focus is, why we're doing it, and, the backstory to it if you were in an actual story plot. And then we have rising action when they do something that, some kind of rising action. Then I tell them I want a peripeteia. I want a brain change. I want something to change in their brain during that class. And so they kind of try and focus on what's changing. What are they learning? What are they doing well? And then we have, falling action, which is sometimes, cleaning up. Sometimes it's asking questions. Sometimes it's picking up people who have fallen. It's a theater class. And then after that, we have our denouement, which is a nodding, which is generally, put everything away, put your notebook away, get your books back from the basket where you've stored them, that kind of thing. And then they line up at the door and they have to tell me about their peripeteia or something good that they did that day or someone else did that day or the class did that day. And that's a really important thing that I think I didn't realize how important it was until I kind of stopped letting it happen sometimes. And I realize that they go away so much more positively and so much more in touch with, did they complete their intention when they have a chance to say, how did my brain change today? Or what did I do good today? Or what did somebody else do good? Or what did the whole class do good? No one ever says what I did good as a teacher. So, but maybe we can work into that, but no validation. And then another thing we try and do at the end of the day is applause. Try and have some applause at the end as they're kind of getting their stuff up. And so I try and have this structure every day, even though every day is remarkably different from the one before, but the same kind of skeletal structure is there, almost like it was a rehearsal or attending a play. You kind of had that same little story arc going through every class period.
I have to say, I love that. And I love that your structure is theater related, and that, we're teaching them, you're teaching them, not me, you, about the arc of the play is the same thing as the arc of the class. Right.
And that helps me to remember too that story arc and to have that rising action. And then with rising action, there needs to be falling action, and there needs to be that brain change. So it helps me as a teacher. In fact, my lesson plans are in those categories every day. And I write what we're doing for each one of those categories every day. So for me, it helps me to structure something that is very unknown to me, the curriculum, as we go into it, it helps me to put those bones into it also. And it makes me more intentional. Then I have an intent for the day also. So it's helped me, I think, as much as it's helped the kids. And it's intuitively taught them that structure of a play, which is one of my big goals. I want them to never look at a movie or a play without kind of applying all of those things to it. So,
well, that's lovely. Oh, thank you so much, Lee. I think
that's
really great to. That's a lovely success, and I think that's a really wonderful thing to share. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lee, Jenna, Barbara, Corby, and Brittany. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and share your stories. And stay tuned next time, where we have a potpourri episode of successes and challenges using student leaders, a monologue unit, and the ultimate challenge turned success. So, before we go, let's do some Theatrefolk news. So if you are a first-time teacher or you've got a class of beginners, where do you start? What plays work best? I always suggest you have a look at our vignette series of scripts. Vignette plays are plays that are made up of short scenes on a theme. So, for example, we have a play called Wait, Wait, Bow Bait, and that's all about waiting. Stupid is Just for Today is about how we all think we do stupid things on a constant basis, and yet stupid is temporary. It's just a temporary feeling, and you look around and think someone else is being perfect. They feel just the same. Betweenity is all about pauses. Hoodie is a play about appearances and self-image in middle school. And because the plays are made up of short scenes, they're easy to do with a class. You can have everyone in your class in the play working at the same time on separate scenes during class time. So, head on over, theatrefolk.com, check out our vignette plays, and I'll put the link in the show notes, which you can find at theatrefolk.com/episode 137. Finally, where can you find this podcast? We post new episodes every second Tuesday at theatrefolk.com and on our Facebook page and Twitter. You can find us on youtube.com/theatrefolk. You can find us on the Stitcher app, and also you can subscribe to TFP on iTunes. All you have to do is search for the word Theatrefolk. And that's where we're going to end. Take care, my friends. Take care.